Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you all for coming here today. As Trevor said, my name is Trevor and I'm the technical director of Siro. And it's Siro. It's not Siro, it's not Siro, it's Siro. And it actually comes from the Greek word Sirios, which actually means dazzling. And Sirius is actually the brightest star in the night sky. I'm going to talk to you today about Siro and how it came to be, what was the problem that it was trying to solve in terms of the digital divide within Ireland. I'll talk to you about the technical solutions that were developed initially within ESB and then in the more laterally stages in collaboration with Vodafone and the trials that we did in Cavan and the digital opportunities that presented themselves in Cavan. And finally, I'll wrap up with the details with regards to the rollout that's about to embark later this month. So just to start off, I'm just going to show you a short video with regards to Siro.
Illuminating our world for over 4.5 billion years. A phenomenon that has intrigued and challenged the greatest philosophers and scientists who have ever lived. Imagine harnessing that power, transforming how we live and work. A technology so instant that it will change Ireland forever. A breakthrough for healthcare, business, entertainment, and the economy. ESB has been at the forefront of building our nation's infrastructure for more than a century. This spirit of innovation has inspired a partnership with Vodafone, one of the leading telecommunications providers in the world. Together, we are taking Ireland to the next level, changing the way we all live, work, connect, and do business here and abroad. In the beginning, there was dial-up. Then came broadband and fibre. Now is the dawn of a new technology, a new company. This is Siro. Powered by light.
I mentioned the star Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky. Sirius is actually made up of a two-star system. And in the instance of Siro, it actually represents ESB and Vodafone coming together. You gotta love those marketing people. I actually showed this video to my 8-year-old there last month, just before the launch, and he was watching on the laptop, and he was fully engrossed in it. He was absolutely in awe of it. But at the end, he came to it, and he turned around to me really concerned. He said, but Daddy, blue and red don't make green. We had a good engineering marketing debate after that. You know, I mentioned earlier about the digital divide within Ireland and what it is that Siro came about to try and solve the problem. Like, I suppose historically, you know, in terms of cities and towns being able to grow, they need critical network infrastructure in place. Historically, that's, you know, roads, railways, canals, more recently electricity. But we're realizing now that high-speed broadband is a critical network service that needs to be in place for our regional towns, for our cities to grow. And within the Irish context, you know, there is high-speed broadband within the cities, but regional towns are poorly served by high-speed broadband. Like, if you look at some of the stats from the Irish broadband perspective, like, of the 1.25 million broadband connections in Ireland, almost 40% of them have less than 10 megabits per second download speeds. And why is that? It's because traditionally they're traditional telecoms copper networks, and it's the copper that bottlenecks the performance of these telecoms networks. Now, to be fair, there has been improvements in this area over the last number of years, and the traditional telecoms networks have improved the situation there, and there are instances now where you can get speeds of up to 70 to 100 megabits per second download speeds for the traditional copper network. But also for the traditional copper coaxial cable networks, you can get speeds of up to 240 megabits per second download. What Siro is delivering fiber optic technology, telecoms cable, all the way to your house that will deliver speeds capable of 1,000 megabits per second, both download and upload. So what is Siro? As we've learned, Siro is a joint venture company between ESB and Vodafone that's going to utilize ESB's electrical infrastructure to roll out fiber optic telecoms cable right down to your house. And it's going to do this in 50 towns across Ireland. It's going to pass 500,000 homes and businesses across the country. And this network is going to be capable of, as I said, of delivering 1,000 megabits per second. Siro is going to invest €450 million building out this network over the next 3 to 4 years. And an important part about this network is that it's a wholesale network. And this wholesale network is open access. And what that means is that any telecoms retail operator in Ireland can use this network to deliver services to their end customers. This is going to transform the telecoms landscape in Ireland. And we want you to get involved as well. We want you to go to our website, siro.ie, and register your interest. Looking back, this has been a journey over the last number of years that initiated within ESB. But looking back more recently in some of the key milestones, Vodafone came through in the procurement process to partner up with ESB, and the joint venture deal was signed back in July of last year. As there were two large companies coming together, we had to get merger clearance from the EU, which came through at the end of October last year. And that allowed the formation of the company 50-50 joint venture in November last year. In parallel, we had been collaborating, ESB and Vodafone together, to do some further technical trials, which were the Cavan trials last year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And then last month, we launched Siro with An Taoiseach Enda Kenny and Minister Alex White, to where we are now, where the rollout of this new network is about to commence. So, technically, how is this going to work? So what Siro is about is building a telecoms distribution network right down to your house. ESB already has that electrical distribution network in place. If you go to any typical regional town, you'll have a 38 kV station or two 38 kV stations on the periphery of the town. And what emanates from those 38 kV stations is medium voltage network, both overhead and underground. That network extends into the city, and as it gets closer to the houses and buildings, it transforms down to low voltage network. Again, both overhead and underground. And it's that low voltage network that extends into your house. What Siro is about is utilizing that electrical network infrastructure to roll out the fiber optic telecoms cable and bring it all the way down to your house. Just a couple of examples just to show it to you in more detail. What you have there on the left is some low voltage overhead network. And the top 4 cables there are actually the electrical cables. And the 5th cable there at the bottom is actually the fiber optic cable. So essentially what you see out there is you have these 4 cables running from pole to pole to pole. And after we do the installation of the fiber optic cable, there's just a 5th cable running from pole to pole. It's also noted there in the bottom left that the fiber optic cable is actually all dielectric self-supporting cable. And all dielectric meaning that it's non-conducting, which is a fairly important property of the cable, since it's in close proximity to the electrical network. On the right-hand side there, we have the underground example, and you might be familiar with some of those pieces of equipment in your typical housing estates. You know, you have the substation transformer at the top, and you have the mini pillar with the vaults in front. Associated with this plant is underground power cables that run in ducts. And what Siro is going to do is to use that underground ducting infrastructure to run the fiber optic cables and bring it up closer to your house and into your house. I mentioned the Cavan trials there earlier. You know, as I said, originally this concept developed within ESB, and there was a lot of trial work done, technical trial work, overhead work, underground work, mechanical work, electrical work. Last year, when we collaborated with Vodafone, we brought it all together, brought it to life by doing the Cavan trials. And essentially, we built this network out to 2 housing estates in Cavan town. We started off at Cavan 38 kV station, and we rolled the fiber optic cable out that medium voltage and that low voltage network, passing all the houses in those 2 housing estates. And in the end, 300 houses got connected up and have been experiencing 1 gigabit per second broadband speeds since October of last year. Actually, this was a free broadband trial for a year, and we were surprised because the take-up was actually quite slow. We ran a few marketing campaigns. We ran an ESB Vodafone ice cream truck up there one weekend. We actually robbed that idea from Google Fiber in the US. Actually, there was great interest in the ice cream van. The only problem was that you had to be over 18 to sign up to the broadband service. But people were kind of saying, like, there must be some catch here, like free 1 gigabit per second broadband speeds for the year. Like, what's the catch? Like, the only catch was that people have to participate in surveys and some workshops during the year, so we can gather as much information about, people's experiences and how they use the internet and stuff like that. And once they realized that, they all started signing up. So the final piece then was bringing the drop connection from the fibre distribution box out on the pavement into the house, which is up through the electrical meter cabinet, back out again, and into this optical network terminal, which receives the fibre optic cable within the house. Again, one of the anecdotal stories from one of the first installations that was done in Cavan was that the guys had no sooner installed the ONT and the equipment, and they were literally back at the van, packing up to go, when the homeowner came running out the door, down the driveway, saying, "Lads, this is absolutely brilliant. Just downloaded a movie in 30 seconds. And that's what you can do. You can download a movie in 30 seconds. You can download 100 songs in 20 seconds. You can download 200 photos in 5 seconds, or upload them for that matter, because it's download and upload. As I said, one of the catches was that you had to participate in surveys to gather as much information as we can. In this instance, over 50% of the respondents said the service that was being provided was vastly superior to the existing services that were in their area. But more importantly, it was the opportunities that this high-speed broadband network presents itself. People can see opportunities with regards to different working conditions and working from home remotely, or establishing their own online businesses. But I think the last one there, in terms of attracting inward investment to help grow and create jobs within that town and keep their people within their town instead of moving back to the cities or emigrating, as we've experienced recently. And I think that's the huge benefit, as we said, back to the digital divide, of what a high-speed broadband network can bring to towns and cities across Ireland. It's helping it to prosper and grow. And some of the case studies, we have the IT student there who lives in one of the estates, and he's saying now that he's able to come home, like he's actually in college in Dublin, but he's actually able to come home at the weekend, which he hadn't been able to do previously. He'd have to stay up for the whole term, because he's able to do the assignments that he gets at the weekend. He's able to do it with the high-speed connection that he has at home. Or there's Declan from the local photography club, who's actually featuring one of our Siro videos. And he's saying that in the photography club, like, they're not dealing in 1 or 2 megabyte files that you and I deal with when we take photographs. He's talking 50, 60, 70 megabyte files. And he says when he goes to the photography meetings now, they all give him their discs with their photographs on it, and then he goes home at night and uploads them all to the website, and he has it done in minutes, whereas normally it was taking them all hours to upload their photographs to the website. So that just gives you a small example of some of the case studies that we had there over the last 6 months in such a small catchment area. It just kind of highlights to you the possibilities that are there with this high-speed broadband network. So that brings us to the rollout, and I've kind of touched on this, but just to reiterate, Siro is going to spend €450 million over the next 3 to 4 years building out this fibre optic telecoms network into 50 regional towns, and it's going to pass 500,000 homes and buildings in those towns. Last month at the launch, we announced the first of those 50 towns, the first 10 towns. So we're continuing on with Cavan, and there's Dundalk, there's Carrigaline, there's Sligo, you can read them all there. And a lot of work has already started. We're just completing a whole procurement process with regards to the equipment, the fibre optic cables, the contractors to build out this network. We've already started surveying and designing the network in those first 10 towns. And construction is due to start in the first of those towns later this month.
High-speed broadband is a necessity for all Irish homes and all Irish businesses as we connect this country to the world. That is why the government passed legislation to allow the Electricity Supply Board to enter into a new joint venture with Vodafone to create the new company being launched here today. That company is Siro, and it will light up our country. Siro will invest €450 million in building a 100% fibre to the building broadband network to 500,000 Irish homes.
We're delighted today to be announcing Siro, Ireland's first 100% fibre network. And we announced the 50 towns that are part of our phase 1. So in selecting the first 10 towns, we looked at geographical regions and also ease of rollout on the network.
ESB has a long track record, nearly 90 years of a track record of bringing network infrastructure to all parts of Ireland. And we see the development of telecommunications on our overhead electricity networks as being a logical extension. Interestingly enough, the electricity system is increasingly converging with telecommunications and information technology. So we have the infrastructure in place. We've spent $6 billion in the last 10 years on reinforcing our rural electricity network. So we have a ready-made solution to bringing high-speed internet services to regional Ireland.
Siro will completely transform the business broadband experience. It will allow customers and businesses at last to have 100% fibre end-to-end connectivity. This will give them high speeds, reliability and great quality, and will ultimately let them compete nationally and internationally, which is really key.
One of the big things that Siro does is it introduces a real competitive edge to the broadband landscape. A very big player indeed, ESB, Vodafone, big public company like ESB teaming up with Vodafone, great international reputation. That's now a new entrant, if you like, into this landscape, this exciting, dynamic landscape of broadband. So what it means is a new big player to do the work that they've announced today, and perhaps also to be a major contender for the contracts that we'll be giving later this year to deliver in rural Ireland.
Okay, so look, that's a very quick summary of Siro, this 100% fibre optic telecoms network that's going to deliver internet to your home powered by light. So thank you very much.